On a sun-scorched road winding from Jerusalem to Jericho, a desolate path carved through rocky, unforgiving terrain, a lone man journeyed on foot. Dust swirled around him as he walked, his eyes scanning the empty landscape, a sense of unease hanging in the air. The road was notorious for its dangers, a place where vulnerability was a liability. Suddenly, from the shadows of the large boulders lining the path, two figures sprang forth. The attack was swift and brutal. The robbers overwhelmed the traveler, their movements a blur of violence as they dragged him down. He fell hard against the dusty ground. Without a word, they stripped him of his clothing and his few possessions, then beat him mercilessly, their cruelty swift and absolute. They fled as quickly as they had appeared, leaving the man broken and half dead, his breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps by the side of the road. Not long after, the sound of footsteps broke the silence. A priest, a man of God, was walking down the same road. He saw the injured man lying in a heap, a stark image of suffering. For a moment, he hesitated. A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face before he deliberately crossed to the far side of the path, his pace quickening as he continued his journey, leaving the man to his fate. A while later, a Levite, another figure of religious standing, came upon the scene. He approached, looked closely at the brutalized man, his curiosity evident. But after a brief inspection, he too turned away, crossing the road and walking past without offering any aid. Then, a different traveler appeared on the horizon. A Samaritan, riding on a donkey, made his way along the perilous road. As he drew nearer, his eyes fell upon the wounded man. Immediately, he stopped. Dismounting, he approached the still figure, his face edged with genuine concern and compassion. He saw not a stranger, but a fellow human being in desperate need. Kneeling beside the injured man, the Samaritan acted with gentle urgency. He opened his own provisions, pouring soothing oil and cleansing wine onto the man's gaping wounds. With tender care, he bandaged them as best he could. Then, with great effort, he lifted the near unconscious man and carefully placed him onto his own donkey, deciding that the man's life was more important than his own comfort. Slowly and carefully, the Samaritan led the donkey along the remainder of the road, supporting the injured man to keep him from falling. Their journey continued until they reached the welcoming light of an inn. The innkeeper came out to greet them, his expression shifting from surprise to understanding as he took in the scene. The Samaritan, with the innkeeper's help, carried the man inside and settled him into a bed. He then took out 2 denarii, a significant sum, and pressed them into the innkeeper's hand. "Look after him," the Samaritan instructed. "Whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I return." The innkeeper, seeing the sincerity and generosity of the stranger, nodded in firm agreement. The next morning, the Samaritan departed, casting one last look back toward the inn, his thoughts still with the man he had rescued. The final image is one of quiet hope, the injured man, no longer abandoned on a dusty road, but resting comfortably in a warm bed, the innkeeper gently tending to his needs. In this simple act of kindness from an unexpected source, we are left to ask, who was neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?